Yeah, hey, how are you? This is your host Janaya, and you are now tuned into Awakening Wounds podcast. Before I start, I want you to follow me on Instagram at Awakening Wounds to access shadow work prompt for today's episode. And also hit the subscribe button if you haven't already to stay up to date on new episodes. This podcast will release every Friday on all podcast platforms and speak on personal development topics such as external validation, which we'll get into in just 1 second. But before I start, check your girl fit out. It's giving therapist. It's giving therapist back. It's giving sophisticated. It's giving educated. It's giving. I'm gonna drop some knowledge today, okay? But back to today's episode. Y'all know what to do. Leave a rate in the comments and let's get into it. Disclaimer. I intend to research, reflect, and suggest strategies on personal development topics while sharing my personal story. This is not a judgmental gossip podcast. We're healing and reflecting. Therefore, if you feel offended, triggered, or upset, please understand it is not what I said, but how it made you feel. I want you to pay attention to that feeling throughout this episode. Okay, I know I told y'all last episode I was excited, but this episode I'm super excited. I'm super excited because this topic is major. It's major because external validation is one of the biggest issues preventing many from pursuing their dreams and goals. They want everyone to tell them they're on the right path or that they're proud of them. But guess what? God gave you your own eyes so everybody won't see the vision. And you must accept that fact to continue to move through life authentically you. There are many stories of successful people telling you that people didn't believe in their dream. It wasn't going to go far. But guess what? It did. It did because they tuned out that outside noise and gave their self-validation and believed in themselves. And you should too. And I know that's hard when you're so caught up in the glimpse of being liked, validated, or accepted. So let's get into the root of that because this was a problem of mine for a long time and I still struggle with it every now and then. So what is external validation? According to the internet, external validation is when you're reliant on the approval or acceptance of others. Most commonly, other people's opinions of you and connecting your self-worth to it. For example, deleting a photo and reposting it because it didn't get enough likes. Or broadcasting your accomplishments online, which everybody does. Regardless of which example resonates with you, all of us have participated in seeking external validation at some point in our lives. The question is, why do we seek validation from others? For many reasons, but it stems back to your childhood. As a small child, you rely on external validation to help determine if you're doing well or not. This may look like being excited about something you created or accomplished in the hopes of getting a job well done or getting praise from your parents. This is normal. It helps kids feel accepted, shows them they matter, and builds their confidence. Hence, if a child grows up experiencing invalidation, they develop negative self-beliefs of themselves as it relates to their identity, self-perception, and even relationships they have with adults, which leaves them with feelings of unworthiness, anger, shame, and others. This invalidation can also lead the child to seek validation elsewhere. So let's get into the signs that show that you grew up feeling invalidated. 1, you seek others' validation. The reason for this episode. You were told you're overly sensitive. Your parents didn't show up. You were made fun of as a kid. You always doubt yourself as an adult. And lastly, your parents played favorite. I was going to leave it at this and move on into how it makes you crave validation elsewhere. But God just spoke to me the other night and was like, no, tell them your side of the story. Because if you don't tell them your side of the story, then how do they really know you went through this? So here's my story of how I grew up being invalidated and end up seeking external validation as an adult, the wrong places. So for me, I grew up in a family of 4. I was the youngest, and my siblings used to bully me. Maybe because I used to snitch every time they used to hurt my feelings. When they talked about how I dressed, what music I listened to, the things I wanted to be growing up. Yeah, I wanted to be a maid growing up. I used to just love cleaning up, and they was just like, a maid? What the fuck? It's crazy because still to this day, I still want to be a maid. Or the simple fact that I had no rhythm. I cannot dance. Nope, maybe that's why I love listening to white people music. I'm joking about this because It wasn't funny back then, but I'm joking now. I was a sensitive kid. I used to call my mom for everything. And sometimes she'd have my back if they physically abused me. And other times, she'll shrug it off if it was related to them making fun of me. I grew up being made fun of and the least favorite of everyone, especially on my dad's side of the family. They played favoritism so much with me and my sister to the point that I really started to question if my dad was my dad. Still to this day, I doubt it because it just traumatized me so much of just the invalidation I used to just feel every time that I used to go over there. It was like they acted like I didn't exist and that my sister was his only child. And that's not to say that I felt jealous of my sister because me and my sister were really close. And I didn't feel no type of way that she was getting all the praise and I wasn't. I just felt like that was fucked up because why y'all mistreating me like this? I didn't do anything to y'all. What did I do? And so, I used to just always feel like I was a shadow or a ghost, especially going over there. I basically went over there to be down talked or to be mistreated, like simply put. I don't think it was ever a time I went over there and I felt like I belonged. But anyways, I didn't understand why people always told me I was the problem or invalidated my feelings. And so a few people showed up for me and validated my feelings, dreams, or personality as a child. As a child, this damaged my inner validation, self-esteem, and confidence. Especially because when I stepped out the house, I was further invalidated by peers. All these shitty experiences as a kid led me to seek external validation and become addicted to what others deemed about me. As a child, everyone thought so negative of me. So when I started to grow up and I started to get control of how I looked, what I could say, where I could go, I think I was more so trying to control how others viewed me rather being just comfortable in my own skin and saying, if you like me, you like me. And so this looked like feeling discouraged or unworthy and partaking in drugs, sex, impulsive shopping, which was my favorite, illegal activity, gangbanging, and feeling better after everyone gave me a compliment on how cool I was or how nice I dressed. I can go deeper into my experiences because this was my everyday life growing up, but y'all get the point. When you grow up with little validation, you seek it in any place that's willing to give it to you. Not even knowing the more you sought external validation, the further you were from being your authentic self. And so for me, I was tired of seeking external validation because it was temporary. External validation only came around when I was at my best, had something to post about, aka my achievements, or what I could do for someone, which goes back to the last episode on conditional love. And like I said on that episode, as humans, we won't always have something to provide and we won't always be our best self. So how do we obtain internal validation and heal from the need of external validation? Because honestly, this approval seeking turned me into a people pleaser. I slowly started to neglect parts of myself to make others happy and validated for. And I was tired of living like that. Tired of having the fear of being judged, disliked, or unwanted. It led me to go against my own judgment because I viewed these people I so desperately seeked external validation from as aspiring, high level, influential. But honestly, that was cap. I sought validation from them because I put these people on pedestals they did not deserve to be on. I believe those people were more worthy and valuable than me. I viewed them as perfect and as if they knew it all. This led me to not follow through on so many dreams of mine because I let so many people I put on the pedestal in on the vision. They had many opinions of what I should and should not do. And eventually, by the end of the conversation, I didn't feel intelligent or experienced enough to power through on my idea. This was a repeated cycle, and I was fed the fuck up because I knew I was playing with my own potential. The root problem was that I valued external validation from people I placed on pedestals over my own. So I started to acknowledge this part about myself that I was in denial about. It's so hard, right? You want to pride yourself on saying you don't give a fuck what nobody else thinks, but deep down inside you do. Deep, at least for me, and at least for all the people that have this issue of external validation, deep down inside you do. You want everybody to view you as a person that's likable. But the thing about being a likable person is that you have to deny parts of yourself because some of those parts aren't going to be acceptable. Started to acknowledge that I had an approval seeking problem, and I started to look for that validation inside of myself so that I could fearlessly chase my passions without caring how someone else viewed them. For instance, this podcast, so many people just told me, like, how's it gonna make you money? Or why do you feel like you're gonna be the one to help people through it? And I'm just like, I like speaking on this. And, I was listening to those people because they main objective was you need to find a way to get some money. And they thought that, this route was just like, wasn't money in it, or it was just going to take a long time to get the money. And so I ended up choosing money over passion. And so I put this on the back burner. But then when I got back on my spiritual journey, God gave me that feeling and that sense of fuck the money. Go do what you want to do. Because if you chasing your passion, that money gonna come. You want to wake up every day irritated, or you want to wake up every day and feel fulfilled? I'm just I want to wake up every day and I want to feel fulfilled. I want to give my gift to people and let them know that this didn't have to cost me a dime to give this to you. I did this because I wanted to. And so here I am on Awakening Wounds right now, giving it to y'all. And so here are some steps I took to validate myself. First of all, I went to therapy. I'm sorry. I needed somebody to hear this. That external validation to tell me if I was tweaking or not. But luckily, that wasn't all that I got out of therapy. In therapy, I started to identify core memories of my childhood that made me think and act the way that I did as an adult. And I began to heal those moments by reconnecting with my younger self and validating her when no one else would. In psychology, they call it CBT therapy. The second one is evaluating my past accomplishments and taking a moment to be proud of them. So many times I've accomplished things and never really taken a moment to be proud. I would keep planning towards the future, which is draining because you never have a moment of proudness. For me, I never took a step back and applauded myself for completing college while pregnant. Not just regular pregnant, but sick to your stomach, lose 40 pounds pregnant. Every day for 2 months, I was throwing up, and I still had my laptop in my lap while throwing up to complete these assignments because I knew I had a mission to graduate, and I wasn't going to let me being pregnant stop that. The third one is I took a social break. I always felt like I had to post everything. It was just further leading me down the rabbit hole of external validation. So I deactivated my socials for a month and started to leave my phone in the house when I went on walks or to go read my book at the park. And now when I start to feel overwhelmed on my social media, I will just deactivate my page or I'll delete the app. The fourth one is I became more self-aware. Tremendous help for me because as I discovered who I was, what qualities made me me, and why I participated in what I did, I began to understand I didn't know myself. After all the things I participated in were to get approval from someone else. Like going back to my first episode of the reason why I hopped in the streets, or, the reason why I stayed in the streets was to get approval and acceptance from my brother. But that wasn't never what I wanted to do. I just wanted my brother to like me. So I started to slowly fall back from it and do what I wanted. I began to embrace myself wholeheartedly. I started to embrace whether I could dance or sing the lyrics right. I just stopped giving a fuck. Nope, I know I can't dance. Nope, I know I ain't got the lyrics right. Proud that at least I was being me. And over time, I became comfortable with that. I'm starting to get more comfortable with it. I'm starting to get more comfortable with educating and speaking on mental health and personal growth. Whether or not somebody feels like, oh my gosh, she thinks she the shit. It ain't even that. It's just, I wholeheartedly feel connected to all of this information, to all of this knowledge. It's fulfilling to me. And so if it's fulfilling to me, I just want to share it out to the world in case it fulfills someone else. And if it doesn't, then ignore it. It wasn't for you then. It was for someone else. Lastly, I practiced reframing from negative self-talk and anyone who reassured me of this. Those negative thoughts, beliefs, and notions of myself made me believe I wasn't good enough. And it made me seek external validation because I needed someone to tell me that I was the opposite. Therefore, when someone made me feel as negatively as I felt about myself, I kept coming back to them for that reassurance because it was easier. You go where you're comfortable at. And I know that's fucked up, right? I'm going to people that's reassuring me of my negative traits and I'm staying there. But at the end of the day, you got to understand, I was thinking negative of myself. I didn't believe I deserved better either. So all of the treatment that they was giving me, I just stayed, was like, This was normal. And so when I began my spiritual journey, I started to refrain from all the negativity and just put positivity into my life, whether that was speaking affirmations, being productive throughout the day, learning new things, or readjusting my inner critic, challenging it to question myself of, you say I'm unworthy? How? In what way? Healing from invalidation is not an overnight process. Like I said, I'm still struggling, and I've been on this journey for 10 months now. It takes time to re-know yourself after so long of people pleasing and denying parts of yourself to fit in. Since everyone seeks validation, even the ones healing from it, it is crucial to know when you are seeking too much of it and reassure and validate yourself before going into the world. So how does this look? This starts with journaling your strengths and your weaknesses, so you won't be relying on another person to tell you how great you are or how much of a failure you are. Have compassion for your flaws and understand everyone has them. I don't care who anyone is. Everyone has them. Everybody praises Lori Harvey. She got fucking flaws. She just don't display them. But she got them. Michael B. Jordan, as fine as he is, he got his own flaws. Okay, everybody got their flaws. They don't make you unworthy or unlovable. Next is invest into your personal hobbies. Fill yourself with what you like to do. Fuck what anybody else got to say about it. If you like to swim, or if you like to kayak or canoe, if you like pottery, some unfamiliar stuff to people that's in your circle, it ain't about them. It's about you. Go do what you want to do. At the end of the day, again, God made you the way that you is for you, not for anyone else, but for you. You were meant to be different. You were meant to stand out. So stand out. The other thing is implement your goals. We'll often plan our goals, but never execute them. And the main reason is because we don't believe we can do them. But when you start to implement your goals, you start to prove to yourself more and more that you are capable. And over time, you build confidence and trust within yourself. And when you do that, you seek less validation from others. Because as long as I trust myself, as long as I believe that this gonna pop off, I don't care what you got to say about it. I'm glad you have an opinion, but that opinion does not affect how I'm about to move. Period. Y'all see how much confidence I got saying that? Like, let that have been to me a year ago. I just would have been like, yeah, but their opinion matter. Because if they think like that, how many other people thinking like that? But it ain't about who thinking against it. It's about who thinking for it, who with it. And you wouldn't know that, and you don't know that until you put yourself out there and until you do it. And guess what? When you do it, even the ones that's was against it, gonna be for it. Gonna tell you, oh yeah, I like it. They just probably was silently projecting they fear onto you because they ain't have enough strength and confidence to believe in themselves. And so lastly, you focus on self-care. If you are drained or not mentally there, you set boundaries and time aside for self to get back to you. And some may say it's selfish. Fuck them. Those who don't understand struggle with people pleasing and external validation themselves, because if they didn't, they would understand that everyone needs time to self. And so this wraps up today's episode. Thank you guys for tuning into Awakening Wombs. Remember, improvement starts with I, and I hope to see you next week for the episode on self-compassion. Don't forget to work on your shadow work. Post it on my Instagram page at Awakening Wombs. And in addition, if you like this episode, please leave a review in the comments and subscribe to the channel. For questions and comments, head to Instagram at Awakening Wombs. Love and transparency, Janaya. Thank you guys.